In my last video, I received this really wonderful comment from South Brooklyn Moto, namely talking about the relationship between Ethereum and Bitcoin in this bull market cycle. And this prompted me to think that I wanted to make sure that I clarified a few thoughts on my positions about trading and holding cryptocurrencies during this bull market, and then my strategy for doing so. So if you'll see here, here's my basic recommendation. We're going to go through these steps one at a time. My crypto alt season trading recommendations. I just want to make it clear that I want to make sure that everybody understands that for me personally, I am maintaining what I call my HODL position. So I have a large portion of my crypto holdings in Bitcoin, and then I have smaller portions in Ethereum, Cardano, Chainlink, and Polkadot, along with some other high flyers like VeChain, and so forth. But I do trade altcoins versus BTC. Now, if we go back to the comment here, I want to highlight just a couple of things. So we see here the South Brooklyn Moto makes the statement that if your goal is to max profit, then staying in ETH has proven to be best. And that is true. ETH has traditionally outgained Bitcoin. So this is why I hold a portion of my funds in Ethereum. Looking at the price of ETH, BTC is flawed because BTC has a way higher value and makes way bigger moves per coin than anything else. It is helpful to compare currencies this way for the purpose of evaluating gains. You need to compare it to something a little bit more stable. Last season, BTC moved 20x and Ethereum moved 175x. All right, so I want to address a few points here. Yes, Ethereum did outgain Bitcoin, but we've got to remember the reason that this cycle happens. It's not an Ethereum cycle. Ethereum's not going through. Ethereum itself is not the coin that is going through the cycles. It's the Bitcoin halving cycle that is driving these prices. And so for the sake of making sure that we are on the right side of the trade, we want to make sure that we're heavily invested in Bitcoin because just because past cycles have proven that Ethereum outgained Bitcoin doesn't mean that in the Bitcoin bull market, other coins will outgain it. And so that's the one thing I think we have to be cognizant of, that the trade is Bitcoin. This is the Bitcoin halving cycle. This is the Bitcoin bull market cycle. And also, when you look at macroeconomic situations, Bitcoin is the asset that is the hedge against the uncertainty and inflation that we see going on. Ethereum is a great platform and has a lot of upside, but it's more speculative. So it could go up more, but it can also go down more than Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is the trade. That's what I think is important that we all remember. And I do appreciate this statement. I like Bitcoin and Ethereum both. Just hold both till the cycle is complete. I totally agree with that. I have my positions that I'm holding personally, and I agree with that sentiment. And he says trying to trade in and outs will be more difficult. Well, this is where I think trading versus Bitcoin makes a lot of sense. And let's go back to the recommendations I'm making here. I'm recommending that we trade alts versus BTC again because Bitcoin is the trade. Now, I also believe that if you trade altcoins versus Bitcoin with Conquering the Markets methodologies, I'll put a link to Jordan's page here, but if you follow Jordan's Conquering the Markets methodologies, you can be successful in navigating trading alts as they spike versus Bitcoin to stack more Bitcoin. Now, personally, again, what I've done is I've taken a portion of my long-term Bitcoin HODL position, my long-term position, and I put it onto a trading platform that I can use to trade. And I'm doing leverage trades with a small subset of my Bitcoin. And I'm okay with losing that Bitcoin because it's a small subset. The majority of it's safe elsewhere. But I'm taking trades versus that Bitcoin because the upside in alt season, the alts can massively outgain Bitcoin. What I want to do is stack more Satoshi, stack more sats, gain more Bitcoin. Now, the other thing I think, and with CTM, Jordan normally uses 8-hour time frames, although he has recommended 12-hour for crypto. I also have noticed that 12-hour seems to be more accurate when trading crypto. So using a longer time frame will also help you significantly with your trading. As you'll see when we look at some charts here in a minute, the crypto markets are so volatile, you need a way to help you weed out the volatility and look at the macro trends that are developing, and a 12-hour time frame helps us to do that. Now, the most important thing to keep in mind here is that if you are going to trade altcoins versus Bitcoin, you have to use proper risk management. So at any time, Bitcoin can tank 30 or 40% and altcoins can tank 80%. So we want to make sure we have proper stop losses in place to prevent us from losing any significant portion of our Bitcoin. And as these coins appreciate and spike, we have to be cognizant to take profits when there's a huge move, even if there's more upside ahead. All right, so let's quickly recap. So my recommendations are that you maintain the majority of your positions in long-term cold wallets offline, or a portion of it maybe in like BlockFi to be gaining interest. I recommend that you trade alts versus Bitcoin, and I'll show why here in a minute. And I think you can successfully do that if you use Conquering the Markets trading methodologies. Trading on 12-hour time frames will help weed out the noise, and using proper risk management. Now, what does proper risk management mean? That means that when you set up a trade, you first look at where your stop loss is going to be. Then you calculate your position size based on your stop loss position so as not to lose greater than a certain percentage, whatever it is that you want to risk, 0.5%, 1%, 2% of that trade. Wherever the stop loss is for any individual trade, you don't want to lose more than, say, 1 or 2% at most. Now, especially when you're very first starting, 0.5% is probably the safest way to calculate that. And then you place that trade accordingly. Now, one thing to keep in mind, too, is you're going to have a good number of trades go ahead and be stopped out. But if you leave wider stop losses and trade much smaller positions, this will also help. So how I'm also navigating this through this risk management is I'm taking a series of smaller trades rather than put on one large trade. I'm taking a series of very small trades with very wide stop losses. And then as those trades go into profit, I'll take another trade and move my stop loss up to break even. And then as they ladder up, I'll have 3 or 4 trades like I did this morning. I had 2 or 3 trades in profit, and then I had one on each pair that may be actually below on a stop loss. So this morning when I got stopped out on several pairs, I got stopped out in profit and in break even, and I still haven't been stopped out on the loss positions yet. So I've actually taken profit this morning is all I've effectively done. And the next trade setup, the next signal, I'll get back in, and I'll continue to move those stop losses up. So far in this alt season, just so you know, I'm personally up 20% using these methodologies, and we've just gotten started. So let me go to the charts and show you what I've been doing and how I'm up 20% already in this alt season. That's in the year 2020. I'm up 20% in 7 days on the Bitcoin position I have. Let me show you how I'm doing that. All right, so take a look at our Bitcoin chart here. Bitcoin is extremely bullish, obviously. We're almost going to hit 40,000 here. Look at this. I'm making a video. This is I'm going to have to do a live stream here in a minute. Now take a look at our our Bitcoin charts, and you'll see on the 12-hour chart, like I was watching this breakout. So I did have a speculative position down here. This was not a CTM entry per se, but I took a double bottom resumption trade right here. That was my first profitable trade. I did take a CTM entry right here as we broke out, retest, resumption. Now that was on probably the 8-hour time frame or lower. But we did have a CTM entry here midway. But up here is where we've gotten our CTM entries. Now several of us have been saying that the safest place to be with the Ethereum Bitcoin trade is outside of this downtrend is where you can start to trade, but we have a top end of this up channel we're fighting with here. You break out of that channel, it's going to be a really good trade. So what I'm really waiting for, and I only have one position on right now, right? So I was stopped out at break even on one, at profit on another, and I have another trade right now that's still on. A small trade based on the entry that we just had here. The next entry I'm looking for is above this trend line, and I want to start to put on a trade here in this first breakout, knowing we're coming into resistance, and continue to ladder up my stop losses. And I'm really looking for my most sizable trade to be on right here as we break out the top of this little bit of resistance. Now I'm looking to really trade and take profit in this box here that I've got shaded in. I've had this shaded in for a while. Talked about this in other videos. But we're talking about going from the 37. So we see that the resistance levels we're looking at 37,000, 39,000, 40,000 Satoshis. So the safest of all trades is when we get outside of this 40,000 Satoshis. If we get a breakout, retest, and a resumption, which is conquer the market style trade, take your entry right there. Potentially we're looking at a move from 43 into the 60,000. So I'll be wanting to ride that trade, managing my stops all the way up here, and hopefully I'll have 3 positions on. Hopefully I'll have the position I have now. I'll have a breakout of this trend line, and I'll have a breakout of that level. That'll be 3 positions potentially, small positions that will add up to a reasonable position, and it'll be easy for me to maintain my stop loss. So if Bitcoin were to hit 40,000, say, and reverse 40%, well, if Ethereum reversed 60% while Bitcoin's going down 40%, I'm going to get stopped out at least break even, slightly profitable. Currently, I'll be stopped out profitable. But say we break above here and I take my first trade, well, I'll be stopped out at near, at no worse than break even probably overall, because I've had entered a trade here. Now, if I get stopped out here before we move up, that may be a different story, but you get the idea. I think we have a lot of room to move, and assuming we make this move. Now, the other reason I have this box shaded here and my take profit zone here and not at the very peak of the prior bull market is that I'm playing the early part of the alt season. We may peak up to these levels after Bitcoin has its final sell-off when it enters the bear phase, when the altcoins make one last pump versus Bitcoin. That may be when we get these peaks up here. But I'm looking for a lower peak up in the early phases into this area. Now, we may not even get up there. And so that's okay. I'll be watching the charts. But that's a pretty big potential move that we have in front of us. Cardano is the same. Cardano's broken out of this downtrend. The really safe entry is above 956. So 956 versus Bitcoin offers us a safe trade entry. Now, one thing I want to highlight again is that I'm risking a portion. I'm holding most of my Bitcoin. I'm risking a portion of it. So if in the event that I've already had 2 trades on here, I've gotten stopped out at profit, and I'm waiting to be stopped out at break even on the other one if I get stopped out here. So I'll have made profit on this move so far. Look at it on the 8 hour. But if you use proper risk management and alt season doesn't actually happen like we think it might, let's say we don't return to, and so my take profit level on Cardano will initially be maybe like the 1950 area for the early part of alt season. We might make it all the way up to the 4,000 area. So we'll take some profit coming into the 1,500 Satoshi area probably, and then if we have some consolidation and resume off of that, then we may re-enter a trade. So, but the downside here is very, very limited if you're using proper risk management. I mean, I may, as of right now, I'm up 20%. I think at worst, I'll leave this cycle. If it's a complete bust, if the alt cycle is a complete bust, I'll leave here at break even or slight profit, most likely. And so it's relatively low risk because we're using proper risk management. And something about proper risk management I want to highlight with trading. If you use proper risk management and you're letting your winners run and you're cutting your losers short or where they're supposed to be cut at your stop loss, what will happen is you only have to win 30 to 40% of your trades to be profitable. And so that's the other thing to keep in mind is that, if this alt season becomes a bust, well, we're going to have some spikes up, and using proper risk management, we can probably navigate at least a break even in a total bust scenario. But we also shouldn't be taking, like, for example, I still have the majority of I'm not even in margin at all. I'm not using up nearly all of my trade potential right now for here. I have a lot more room to grow on my trade. So my trades right now total are about maybe 20% of the total positions I want to have on. So, and I have to go check. I might have been stopped out more here. But so we have some weakness coming in here. But these are going to present buying opportunities. So we had a bull flag on DOT, for example, that this bull flag broke down. So I got stopped out here at 27, right here below this bottom wick, below the support level. So I had I had 2 trades. So I put a trade on in here, which I took for profit up here somewhere. And then I had this trade on in here, which I got stopped out at a loss here. So I'm probably at worst break even on DOT. And now we're coming back into this level of support here. This is going to set up a potential setup for us. Now, we may not resume up. Bitcoin may be so incredibly strong that it continues to run. I'm going to have to do a 40K live stream here in a minute. This cycle might be different. That's the one thing we have to be cognizant of as well. This cycle might be different. It might be more like the first cycle where Bitcoin has a huge, and Jordan just covered this morning in his live stream. I suggest you all check it out. We may run to 50, 60, 70,000 before having a big correction. If that happens, alt season is going to be a lot different. And so, using CTM methodologies and proper risk management, we're not going to get into, and these were very small trades here. I'm not going to get into any sizable trade until we get to a safer level. So we broke out. We did have a actionable trade here, right? And now we're coming back into support though on DOT. If DOT gives us a resumption signal, then we'll be back in the trade. If not, I'm not currently losing anything. I'm stopped out. I don't have a trade on DOT. Now I have my HODL position. Like I have, I think 3%, maybe 4% of my crypto is in DOT. That's my hold position. And so my hold positions, again, are ETH, ADA, Link, and DOT. And they're all doing well in the USD chart, but they are starting to lose some ground versus Bitcoin here as Bitcoin makes this move that we're seeing on here. But going back to our how to navigate this, again, if you use proper risk management, there's very little downside to trading a portion of your Bitcoin if you're trading properly. And if we do get this big move, right? So Ethereum, Bitcoin will be the example I would be using early on. And let's go to the Bitcoin dominance chart. We get this big move here. That's a lot of potential profit and additional Bitcoin that we can stack. With the downside is very limited. Like if you're using proper risk management, you're going to lose very little, and then you'll just be sitting on the sidelines until another setup occurs. More setups occur. Now, looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is kind of our proxy for where we're at, I was watching this kind of bear flag form here, potentially on Bitcoin dominance. Now, you notice. So when Bitcoin dominance spikes, it means Bitcoin is stronger and the alts are weaker. And when Bitcoin dominance drops, that's when the alts are weaker or stronger and Bitcoin's weaker. So we had this big sell-off, which kind of started alt season, a lot of us felt. And now we're coming back into this level of 69.70 resistance. And we'll see what happens. If we end up breaking up here and continuing up, then we'll be out of alts and we'll just wait for the right setup again to happen. If we break down here, we're just going to present more trade opportunities, and we'll be able to get back into some alt versus BTC trades. So, again, I have my HODL positions. If this turns out to be a total bust, and alt season turns out to be a total bust, I'll be probably out of this because I'm using proper risk management and waiting for the right setups to occur. I'll be out of this at break even at worst. Like I said, I'm currently up 20% now after being stopped out this morning, probably more like 15%. But if you use proper trade management, risk management, and you trade on these longer time frames, now let me show you one more thing about trading on longer time frames. So if I go down to the 1 hour, this is the BTC charts too. The other reason to trade the BTC charts is you'll notice they're a lot more stable because these altcoins are following BTC, but the wicks are much more extreme on the USD chart. Let's look at this, for example. Look at these wicks on the USD chart, and let's go look at the Bitcoin chart. They look about the same, so I'm just wrong there. I've found, in general, though, that it's a little bit easier to navigate trading versus Bitcoin than trading versus the US dollar because the volatility is just a little bit. Let's measure this. So from this top wick to this bottom wick was 25% on the USD chart, and let's see what it was on the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin. Yes, it's 14%. So it looks bad on the chart, but these moves are muted versus Bitcoin. They're exaggerated versus the US dollar, but they're smaller versus Bitcoin, which makes it easier for us to navigate. And that was on a 1 hour chart. It makes it easier for us to navigate these trades, trading versus Bitcoin. Now, there are lots of large wicks. Crypto is still highly a liquid market. So you are going to get these large wicks, and you'll have to just stomach being stopped out a few more times. But the upside, given the moves that crypto can make, again, the upside here, what we're looking to try to capture, really, if I were to encapsulate it, just this whole video, what we're trying to do is with a portion of our Bitcoin, not all of our Bitcoin, not even most of our Bitcoin, just a portion of our Bitcoin, if we can capture a trade in the alts as Bitcoin sells off from these levels in the Bitcoin dominance down to, say, this level or near this level. That's a very, very large move in alts versus Bitcoin, which will give us the ability to gain some profit versus Bitcoin. The other reason I'm doing this is personally to keep my skills sharp in trading. Instead of just sitting on the sidelines watching crypto, I'm actively trying to trade and gain more Bitcoin. It also keeps me from being distracted by my gains. I mean, my count's got to be up, I don't know, a monster amount, right? I'm up a lot, but I don't ever check my USD balances. Because I just know Bitcoin is going to continue to go up from here versus USD as 2021 rolls on. And I'm much more focused on getting more Bitcoin through alts. And that keeps me mentally sharp as I try to trade and navigate. And it's not easy. Right? This is not easy getting this right. But this is a great practice in using proper trade techniques, proper risk management. Now let me talk about one thing here that in Conquer the Trading, what Jordan is teaching us to do is to find waves in the market, find big moves in the market as the market starts to move, and then to ride those waves. And what we're looking for is one of the most safe confirmation signals you can get. And that is a breakout of a level, breakout of a horizontal level, a retest of that horizontal level, and then a resumption. This happens over and over and over again in the markets. Resistance becomes support on the upside, and support becomes resistance on the downside. The markets love to retest. They love to break out and retest and then resume. Now, if you try to take a breakout trade, your odds of winning those trades are much lower than if you wait for the market to fully go through that cycle of breaking a level, retesting the level, and then showing you resumption. Then you know you're riding a wave. You're riding a nice wave. Jordan talks about all the time. It's like a surfer waiting for the waves to come in, right? Or a killer looking to pounce. We want to be patient, sit quietly and patiently, and wait for the opportunities. Right now, Ethereum BTC is setting up an opportunity. Ethereum is keeping pace with Bitcoin. At some point, either we're going to break down here and we'll either be stopped out with a small loss, or we won't put a trade on, or we resume up out of here, out of this area, and break out of this trend line, and then we'll have the opportunity to put some trades on, and got distracted there for a second. That line's supposed to be a resistance, but we'll be back in the trade at a good point, right? So that's the thing. And if we don't, but we want to wait for the trade setups to be there. So right now there's no trade setups happening, right? We're coming into test resistance right now. That's what we want. We want these breakouts. We want to test support. These broken resistances, we want to test support, and we want the market to show us that it's going to resume up. And so we've had several breakouts of downtrends, and then breakouts of downtrends and horizontal levels. And what we're waiting for is we're patiently waiting for the market to show us it's going to resume up. And that's it. All right, everybody. I hope this video is useful. There's a lot more to learn. Again, the best place to learn that is to be on Jordan's live streams or to watch his videos, Conquer Trading and Investing. I'm here to help to give some context about altcoins, the technology, and I'm focused on altcoin trading and trying to help all of us navigate that. Let's quickly review our recommendations. First of all, I personally will be maintaining a hodl position. That way, if I do lose some in trading, I still will have a net profit. But I think the risk versus reward of trying to trade these alts in alt season is worth risking a little bit of Bitcoin. 2, I do trade alts versus Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the trade. This is the Bitcoin cycle that is driving all this, and we want to make sure that what we're doing is either trading an asset that's beating Bitcoin or getting more Bitcoin, right? And so that's the goal of all this. I personally believe Ethereum has the potential to someday pass even Bitcoin in market cap, but that's not this cycle. The cycle is about Bitcoin. If you trade with CTM, Conquering the Markets methodologies, you can navigate these waters. 12-hour time frames help. Proper risk management is absolutely critical. And thank you, South Brooklyn Moto, for these fantastic comments. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. I do agree with your sentiments that I do believe that ETH will outgain Bitcoin for 2021 specifically. But I think we have to make sure that we understand that Bitcoin is the trade and that everything else is a risk. And so we want to manage our risk appropriately. And that's the closing thought I'll leave you all with. Thank you all for watching my channel. Thank you all so much for all the support we've had so far on my live streams. I so much appreciate the attendance and the interaction. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It lets the YouTube know that you're enjoying this content. And what we want to do is we want to bring new crypto investors into the safe haven of Conquer Trading and Investing. And there's a lot of other YouTube channels and a lot of other trading channels that frankly are going to lead people astray. They're going to cause people to sell thinking this is some type of bubble too early or hold too long. There's lots of risks. And if you've been following Jordan, you'll know that he's navigated Bitcoin better than anybody else. And if you haven't been following them, you've been missing out, but now you've got the opportunity to tag along and to learn and to be in the right place for this market cycle. But we want to help people come into the crypto space to be properly educated and to understand what's actually happening and what the trade is. The trade is Bitcoin, and that's what we should be focused on. Anything to do with alts is just trying to gain more Bitcoin and or trying to keep our skills sharp. And I absolutely agree that we should be in the business of maximizing gains as well. So again, thank you all so much for your support. Have a good day.